Make sure everything's working well.
Yeah. Billy, why don't you take my cup?
1, 2, 3, pop. Sit up. Right side up, Danny.
My cup straight off of the counter.
Okay. Tonight, we are going to read from James. We'll read from James chapter 1, verses 26 and 27.
Now we're doing the second one.
Okay. Go ahead and get
Consider
this
watching
ready.
the video True Christianity, which is right there. And
In connection with these verses. Then read James's definition of pure religion and discuss ways your families can make the practice of your religion more pure. Okay?
You start with the video.
There's only 2 rules for joining the 6th Street Geriatric Motorcycle Crew. First off, both your hips have to be real. And second, you have to love going to church. Yep, that's right. Speaking of church, about a month before my neighbor Walter died, a few of us hog-riding old-timers were sitting around trying to impress each other. I said, "Walter, do you know I haven't missed a day of church in 30 years?" Of course, he looked up with a wry smile and said, "Jerry, that's a pretty good track record." Now, what were you doing with all that time when you weren't in church? I hope you were being a true Christian then, too. Of course, Walter's gone now, which means of the original motorcycle crew, it's just me and my neighbor Mitchell left. Without Walter, getting ready for our annual road trip just wasn't the same. Well, we moped around for a bit, trying to figure out how to ride like banshees, all the while honoring Walter's memory. But after a while, an idea came to us. If Walter were here riding with us, what kind of road trip would he want to do? Well, soon enough, we started to figure it out. You know, we've been doing this trip every year for the last 2 decades. And I'd say this year we traveled fewer miles than we ever have before. But one thing I learned this time is that sometimes it's the quality of the miles, not the quantity, that counts. You know, we miss old Walter. And I still go to church every single week. But when I'm not at church, I try to remember what he said that night. What were you doing with all that time when you weren't in church?
I think what is that? Australia!
You guys are
The
terrible
Grand
pictures.
Canyon?
The Grand Canyon, where we went like a few months ago. Australia.
Australia?
Alright,
That
let's
was
read James's definition of true Christianity.
Okay.
It's all of the caramel popcorn.
If any man, hey, Haley, listen. If any man among you seem to be religious, and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart. This man's religion is vain. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world.
So what does it say pure religion is?
To visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction and to keep himself unspotted from the world.
Well, what does that mean?
That doesn't mean like help people who are doing just in a tight spot. That's what it says there.
The fatherless, who doesn't have a dad, and the widows. Especially back in those times, like,
So, yeah.
it would be a reasonably common thing for someone to have lost their dad and their family, and they didn't have good ways for women to be able to provide for their families.
They
Right?
didn't, because at the time apparently women were thought to be inferior.
Or just a different role. They weren't
They
weren't really expected to have
Or just
to
given
work for the kinds of work were usually manual labor.
Just generally not given the best opportunities.
So for them, like, if you were fatherless or a widow, you were in pretty dire straits, right?
Because you didn't really have anyone to help take care of you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we don't have that many fatherless or widows around us that we would go visit. But it's not so much saying that, like, it's those specific people.
Just
That
anybody who's in an affliction and to
serve
keep
others.
themselves unspotted from the world.
So
Well,
what does unspotted from the world mean?
I think it means not to do it like, oh, I'm so great. Look, I'm helping them. That's exactly what I
So
thought.
that's important, but I don't think that's what it means to be unspotted from the world.
Yeah.
Let's look up their definition of unspotted.
So if we look at the footnote for unspotted, it says it references the topical guide from chastity. What does chastity mean?
Let's read some of these scriptures. Lay hands suddenly on no man, neither be partaker of other men's sins. Keep thyself pure.
That's a good clue. So
Wait.
don't partake in other men's sins. Keep thyself pure. So unspotted means pure or clean.
The two aren't necessarily connected.
There's a footnote on the word the.
Okay, let's focus, Sam. Not interrupt, okay?
I know.
Mom was talking.
That's just funny.
So there's kind of two parts of what he's saying pure religion is. And it's not that do you think this is an appropriate time, Neely? We're doing scripture.
Unconnected or
They're connected in that they are both parts of pure religion, but they're not saying this is like two steps of the same thing, right? So
yes, they're
on the
connected.
one thing that we should do is to give service, right?
Yep. Help others.
And
Make sure
keep ourselves unspotted from the world.
keep
So.
yourself.
Keep ourselves from temptations,
Yeah.
that we're living righteously.
Mm-hmm. And they use a lot of old language in the scriptures for two different reasons. Number one, they were written long ago, and for the Book of Mormon, it was only translated recent.
Yeah,
No.
so
Actually, no, It was translated a few years ago, like 18th,
Danny, please sit on the
19th
couch.
century.
Yep.
Pretty long ago, so
Danny,
they using slightly different language anyways.
He's got all of the popcorn now.
sit back in. Okay. All right. So let it be written.
So let it be done.
So what are we going to try to do from those scriptures?
Help others and make sure we're not sitting. How about
Good plan.
we did the treat today?
No, it's good time. We gotta go to bed.
And 3